In the mid-1900s, traveling circuses roamed the United States by train, showcasing their wonders beneath a grand tent known as the Big Top. Among them, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus reigned supreme as the largest in the nation. However, the shadows of World War II loomed over them. Personnel and equipment shortages plagued their operations, causing delays and mishaps that disrupted their once seamless performances. On August 4th, 1942, tragedy struck when a fire erupted, claiming the lives of several animals. Fast forward to July 5th, 1944, when the circus rolled into Hartford, Connecticut. The trains ran so late that one of the two planned shows was scrapped. In the world of circus lore, missing a show is a sign of bad luck to come. While the evening performance went on, a sense of unease hung in the air, with many performers bracing for the unexpected. The next day unfolded with a 2:15 afternoon show, drawing a crowd primarily of women and children, though the exact number of attendees remains uncertain to this day. Estimates suggest around 7,000 people filled the seats, eager for the spectacle. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, but beneath the excitement lurked a tension that only those in the circus could sense. The Big Top, a massive spectacle, could hold 9,000 spectators. It stretched 200 feet wide and 450 feet long, with sidewalls rising 15 feet and a roof soaring to 48 feet. The canvas was coated with the paraffin wax and gasoline for waterproofing. It was extremely flammable. Erected on freshly mowed grass and dirt, the ground was dampened and layered with hay and wood shavings. A 25-foot oval track separated the action from the audience. Exits included a main entrance and 8 smaller ones, but during the fire, many of these exits were blocked by circus wagons and debris. The fire erupted suddenly, igniting after the Lions act on the southwest wall of the tent during the Flying Walinda's performance. Circus band leader Merle Evans was the first to notice the flames. He quickly ordered the band to play "The Stars and Stripes Forever," which was a distress signal known throughout the circus. Ringmaster Fred Bradna shouted for calm, urging the audience to exit in an orderly manner, but chaos reigned. The fire had cut the power, drowning out his voice. In the frenzy, Bradna and the ushers struggled to maintain order as the crowd surged towards the exits, frantic. They fought the flames with just water jugs scattered around the tent, desperately pulling down burning canvas. When it became clear that their efforts were in vain, they shifted their focus into evacuating and surviving the panicked masses. Inside the tent, only the big cats trained by May Cover and Joseph Walsh remained. They were ushered into chutes to their waiting cages, suffering only minor burns. Most spectators managed to escape, yet many were trapped in hysteria. Witnesses described scenes of confusion as some ran in circles, searching for loved ones instead of fleeing. Others dashed back into the inferno, desperate to find family. A few clung to their seats, believing the fire would quickly be extinguished. Blocked exits made escape even more treacherous, trapping many in the chaos. At just 11 years old, Maureen Trekian lived on the same road as the circus. On that fateful day, she planned to go with a neighbor and her daughter, but when she had arrived, they had already left without her. Alone, she decided to go to the circus anyways. She found a spot in the bleachers, but then chaos erupted. A voice screamed. Suddenly, a massive fireball erupted at the top of the tent. It grew larger, consuming everything in its path. Desperation took hold. A man began tossing children over the cages, desperately trying to save them. Sitting 3/4 of the way up, Maureen knew she had to act. She leaped down into the straw below. A young boy with a pocket knife cut through the tent, pulling her to safety. In that frantic moment, Maureen didn't think twice. She grabbed another little girl's arm and pulled her out as well. Frida Pushnik, known as the Armless and Legless Wonder, faced her own peril. A minstrel performer dashed onto the stage, snatched her chair, and carried her to safety, ensuring her escape. Frida continued to perform with the circus until 1955. The tent, coated in paraffin wax for waterproofing, became a raging inferno as flames leaped wildly, fueled by the wind. It shielded against rain but turned into a death trap, catching fire with a terrifying speed. As the paraffin melted, droplets of burning wax rained down, searing many who were trapped inside. Eyewitnesses reported the tent collapsed in a mere 8 minutes, burying hundreds under its fiery remains. A haunting image emerged in the aftermath, a sorrowful Emmett Kelly, the clown, clutching a water bucket. This moment transformed into a grim symbol, leading to the event being remembered as the day the clowns cried. The tragedy was devastating. Many perished in the flames, while others fell victim to the chaos that ensued. Estimates of the dead vary 167, 168, or more, but most agree on the figure of around 168 being based on official counts that included dismembered remains. Over 700 were treated for injuries, yet many left in shock, refusing help. Many suffered for years, if not their whole life. The real toll may be higher. Poor residency records in rural areas hid the true number of fatalities. Free tickets had brought in drifters and spectators, unreported and unaccounted for. The tragedy left a scar, not just on the ground, but in the hearts of those who witnessed it. Some had jumped from the tops of the bleachers, desperate to escape the flames. They thought they could slip under the tent's edges, but this choice led to more deaths than survival. Others found themselves trampled by the chaotic crowd, gasping for breath beneath the weight of fallen bodies. Many victims were discovered in grotesque heaps, stacked 3 deep at the most congested exits. A few managed to survive, shielded by the bodies that fell on top of them. Those who escaped carried the horrors of that day for years. Carol Tillman Parrish, just 6 when the fire broke out, recalled decades later, "Even now I can smell the stench of human flesh as the blaze took its toll." A young girl with golden hair, dressed in white, became the most famous victim of the circus fire. Known only as Little Miss 1565, her name came from the number assigned to her at the temporary morgue. Her face, hauntingly preserved after her tragic death, has turned into a symbol of that horrific night. Was found alive at the tragic scene and taken to the hospital for care. Sadly, she died at 6 p.m. on July 6 and was assigned the number 1565 when transferred to the makeshift morgue. She was a white female, age 8 to 10, standing around 3 foot 11 inches to 4 feet tall and weighing between 55 and 65 pounds, with shoulder length, blonde or light brown hair and blue eyes. She still had most of her baby teeth. Dressed in brown shoes and a flowered white dress, her death was ruled asphyxia due to smoke inhalation or being trampled. On July 10, 1944, she was buried at the Northwood Cemetery in Wilson, Connecticut. Detectives Thomas Barber and Ed Lowe worked tirelessly to identify her. They took photographs, dental records, and fingerprints. They reached out to orphanages, welfare agencies, and even sent her image to every elementary school in Connecticut. They also ran her picture in the newspaper. They honored her memory by placing flowers on her grave during holidays. After Lowe's death, his widow continued this tradition. In 1981, Lowe's widow claimed her husband had found Little Miss 1565's family, but they had requested privacy. In 1987, odd notes began appearing at Little Miss 1565's grave, claiming her name was Sarah Graham and suggesting family ties to the fire. However, no one named Graham is listed among the victims, casting doubt on these claims. A bad joke? Very possibly. In 1991, Rick Davey suggested she was Eleanor Emily Cook, leading to her body being moved near the Cook family cemetery in Massachusetts, next to her twin, Edward, who died in the fire as well. This theory faced skepticism. Eleanor's mother, Mildred, saw Little Miss 1565's body and insisted it wasn't her daughter, maintaining this until her death in 1994. Stuart Onan's 2001 book highlighted discrepancies in dental records, further questioning the identification. Today, Little Miss 1565 remains listed as identified, with law enforcement still unsure if she is Eleanor, and she isn't the only one. There are a total of 6 complete unidentified individuals and 1 collection of body parts referred to as unknown parts. Parts. 1510 is a white male child around 11. 1503 is a female child around 9. 2200 is a male around 55 to 65. 2109 is an adult female 20 to 30. 4512 is an adult female 25 to 35. Some might find it hard to believe that a child or close family member could just vanish without a trace in these circumstances, but Raymond Erickson Jr. was a good example. He was at the circus that day with his family, his uncle, cousins, aunts, and grandmother. After the fire, his uncle discovered him gravely injured. They rushed him to the Hartford hospital, where doctors insisted on placing him on a mattress in the hallway of the 4th floor. His uncle, suffering from severe burns himself, needed to be treated, so he left Raymond there. Raymond was never seen again. Raymond's mother, Sophie Erickson, came to the armory where the makeshift morgue had been placed. Searching desperately, she examined every body on display, which had to have been horrible, but none were her son. Days later, a chilling discovery was made. Raymond's sneakers and socks were found in a cardboard box. The darkness of his fate lingered unresolved, haunting all that knew and loved him. Raymond's fate remains a mystery. The coroner, Walter Wessenborn, suspected that the boy's body had been mistaken for another child. Identification methods at the time were just basically visual, leaving a lot of room for error. In a chilling twist, Wessenborn presented a grim option to the Erickson family. He offered them an unidentified body labeled 1510 that matched Raymond's measurements. He suggested they could just bury this stranger, claiming him as their son. Erickson had seen 1510 at the armory. She knew this wasn't Raymond. The family, devastated, refused to accept a body that they didn't even know. Raymond was still marked as missing, but he was presumed dead after his arrival at the hospital. Another family had most likely taken his body, likely believing it to be their own lost child. So why does this matter? It matters because the theory surrounding Little Miss 1565 suggests she might be a victim who was wrongly identified. This opens the door to the terrifying possibility that any child near her age could actually be her. Eleanor Emily Cook's body might be standing in for someone else's tragic fate. If it wasn't an accident, though, then who was behind the fire? Robert Segee. At just 13, Robert was a part of the circus lighting crew in Portland, Maine. Robert had a troubled past with arson, admitting to multiple fires in Ohio and claiming responsibility for several murders. He eventually did 40 years for arson. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, he said a red man urged him to ignite the flames. However, in 1993, he retracted this confession, claiming an alibi from watching a movie that had long since stopped showing at Hartford. It was a pathetic alibi.
This is what we're going to do today. We'll get this. We'll get finally get your dad's story on record. I don't think it's been on record to this point.
Nobody would believe me.
Well, we're here.
For Christ's sake, I was only 13 years old back in 44. Nobody believed me. I told them and told them, but they wouldn't believe it. They had to blame somebody, so I got the blame. And I was only 13 goddamn years old when that happened.
What is your date of birth?
Hey,
September 17, 1929.
just put in the date and time on your tape verbally.
All right, the date is the 16th of March, 1993. The time is 15:40.
And you're in Columbus, Ohio.
Now the only thing I got on my side was my word. So now, if you guys don't believe me, I haven't got a goddamn chance to show.
Okay, what we're here for today is the truth about the Hartford Circus Fire, according to the knowledge that you have.
Okay, now I'm asking you to use your own judgment.
Okay.
Now you know it was July 6th,
Mm-hmm.
44. And that day was an extremely hot day in Hartford, Connecticut. And no one but you know what the people, circus people, done with that big top and that. I don't think really that anybody really started that fire. It's the goddamn hot sun that started that fire.
Move back a little bit. When did you join the circus?
I joined them up in Portland, Maine when I was a kid. I wasn't even old enough to get away from home. But I had such a terrible family and that I'd have done anything to get away from home.
Do you know about when you joined the circus?
It was about 4 or 5 days before that circus fire. Because we went from Portland, Maine to Providence, Rhode Island, from Providence, Rhode Island to Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay, were you working there the date of the circus fire on July 6, 1940?
I was on the bus, your bus system there in Hartford, when I heard somebody say the big top was on fire. I couldn't get off that goddamn bus quick enough to try to be of much help at all. But I did not set that fire.
In the 1950s,
Yeah.
you were arrested here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Lima State Hospital took some information from you.
Yeah.
In your statement, you talk about seeing a red Indian and seeing the tent on fire.
I was nuts.
Okay.
How can you tell what you say when you're nuts?
Okay, you talked about confessing to other fires. Were you nuts,
They
or
never
did
let
you?
me get proper rest or anything else. They're hounding me almost to death. And under pressure like that, you're about to say anything. Just so that you alone. Haven't you ever heard of anybody being brainwashed? I haven't got a chance.
No, we are not here to arrest you. We are not here to get you extradited to Connecticut. We are here to try to find the truth out. It's been 49 years almost to the day.
That's
This
true.
July.
I'm telling you the truth. My word is all I got.
If we found out who set this fire, what do you think we should do to them?
I have no idea, mister. I have no idea. Because you're of one culture and I'm of the Indian culture. I really don't think anybody, any real individual started that fire.
What if I told you that we feel somebody did start this fire? Not you. That we felt somebody did start this fire. Do you have any idea who it might have been that worked there?
Consider now that they use all that kind of gasoline and stuff like that to waterproof the big top. And they must have had a hell of a big insurance on that goddamn big top.
Oh, the insurance paid off.
Yeah?
There's one statement where you say, I was at the Hartford Circus, I saw the red Indian, and then I woke up and the tent was on fire.
That was part of their brain.
You see, gentlemen, my father is Native American. And within the Native American community, he is envisioned as a holy man, as a shaman. Yes, he's had visions, but a lot of times visions can be induced by talking to in certain ways where you would think you have seen this.
What Indian culture or tribe?
I'll show you. I got my card.
Is that upstairs?
Oh, I got it right here.
Oh, okay.
My father is half Sioux, half Mohawk.
I got it right here.
He was
But you
raised
keep it
with a
yourself.
Mohawk and taught by Red Fox, who was his grandfather,
You'll
down
have to
in
be
Mid
down.
Gorges, who's out in, just south of Butte, Montana.
Have you seen those pictures back then? Do you recall the pictures that you drew?
Oh, I vaguely remember something about a red flying horse, an Indian chief. But so far back in my mind, I can't make no connection.
Now, do those mean anything to you?
I don't say anything.
Why did you draw them?
Who knows? I don't know. And they didn't like me to start with because I'm an American Indian shaman. And they were white people. And if you're around this part too long, if you're different, you're on the shit list. You understand?
So you're saying they picked on you because you're an Indian?
No, I'm saying they picked on me because they wanted to get me up. And they didn't give a shit, really, who.
If we showed you the pictures that were drawn back then, would they mean anything to you today?
I have no idea. Why don't you show me and find out?
We maybe do a fax on that. You know what I'd like to suggest? I'd like to suggest we suspend our interview now. So you have to feed the kids and everything else anyways. And we'll work on seeing if we can't get those copies faxed to us.
Okay, now it is now 16:30.
Can I see the picture?
Okay, it's now 10:30 on the 17th of March, 1993.
All right, but you shut it off for a minute, so.
Okay, I'm starting the tape again. It is now 10:35.
Easier for us.
Starting with the photos. This one marked here,
Yeah,
1CR.
yeah.
That means nothing to you? You're saying you did not draw that?
No, I didn't say I didn't draw it,
Okay,
but it has no meaning.
has no meaning to you. 8CR has a picture of a face, looks like fire.
Does it look like fire to you?
Sure does. What does it look like to you?
Something that might have happened back in 1792 or 93.
Okay. What do you
when
think?
The Indians, when the Indians were fighting the white men so the white men wouldn't take their land.
Okay, what do you think this means?
Just what I told you.
You see, my father has many spirit guides and many animal totems that help to guide him through his life. This is part of a Native American culture. One of these spirit guides is called Deathwind. Deathwind was in a battle in the late 1700s with the white men. And even though the Indians had won that battle, the surviving white men set fire to the plains around him, and he and his horse perished in that fire. And that may be one explanation, of the drawing.
Okay. Okay, before we were talking, you were talking about this one, 4P. You said this looks like the devil. Everybody has a devil in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the Indian version of the devil. In the flying red horse.
Okay,
You
that's
know of that.
Mark 3C.
Yeah.
And
You
as
already
you were
know it.
explaining to us about the chief with his horse. Okay.
Tell me what you see there.
Okay, the Indian in the canoe,
Uh-huh.
paddling along with the deer in the background.
Uh-huh.
Again, the mountains and the bird.
Doesn't that give you any hint? It didn't happen in the here and now.
Okay.
It happened hundreds of years ago. This chief,
That's
He happened.
10 CR.
he happened over 100 years ago.
Okay, now would this be the chief with the red horse?
Yep.
Okay.
But you got to remember, I live in separate realities. Because I am a shaman.
Okay.
I was brought up a shaman. I was a shaman since I was, 9, 10 years old. I had a natural gift because I had a double veil on my face. That my skin was much lighter than my other people.
Okay.
The double veil means a double placenta, having the face at birth.
Okay.
And that's one of the signs that they look for in a highborn.
Okay. Going back to the Hartford Circus Fire.
Yeah.
We have a newspaper article here that says some things, and I know how newspapers are. You know how newspapers are.
Unfortunately, I do.
I'd just like to ask you some questions about it. One of the places in here, it says that you received burns in the fire.
Not true.
Okay.
How could I receive burns in the fire when I was downtown Hartford when it happened? Does that make sense to you?
I wasn't
I was
there, that's why
13
I'm
years
asking you
old.
about this.
I was in the goddamn movie show
Mhm.
when that damn thing caught on fire. And before I got back there, that damn thing was burned to the ground. Now, how the hell could I receive burns?
You know, I understand how the newspapers are, and that's why I wanted to ask you. Because it
Yeah.
says, and I quote you, it says, he and one of the other men received burns in the fire.
Well, the hell with this goddamn newspaper stuff.
Okay.
Let's talk for straight shit between you and I.
Okay, no problem.
That's what
Hell
Get
we're
with
rid of
this
that.
stuff.
This is one of our documents that has
Yep.
these statements in it that
Well, how
nobody
the hell-
confirms or anything, so now we're confirming or denying
Yep.
what the statement came out and said.
How can you confirm something that never happened?
That's why we're talking to you. We want the truth from you.
Before the fire, when I had to go to the movie show, it was just getting ready to put the lights up and start the show for the public.
If I
It
gave
was
you,
during the daytime, and I wasn't needed at that time, because I worked in the light department. So I asked permission, and I took off and went downtown and went to the movie show.
Did you hear any grumblings amongst the circus people that you worked with about money not being paid for a while?
Nobody got paid for a while. And the grumblings was everyday occurrence. So what are you talking about?
So there was a lot of disheartenment.
Of course,
So you
Oh,
felt that
even a lot
the
of
circus may have been in trouble?
a lot of the performers wasn't having been paid either.
and if somebody did it, I'm sure nobody did it to
Intentionally.
intentionally burn down the tent, maybe to fool around. Accidents happen. We have a person, yesterday I asked you about a guy named Emmett Welch, if you knew him or not, and you said yes, you recalled that he worked at the circus. What happens if I tell you we have a 20-page statement that he says you started the Hartford Circus Fire?
I say Emmett Welch is a goddamn liar.
Okay.
That's what I did.
You told us yesterday you went to the movies, you saw 4 feathers.
Yeah, 4 feathers.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure that was a picture that played, but you know, in every movie theater in that, they had newsreels too,
Okay.
and they had movies that were coming. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Previews.
Previews, yeah. Things like that. Whether I was away from my post or I was conscientious or whatever, I had an uneasy feeling.
When you left the movie theater, what did you do then?
I got on a bus and went back to the circus ground as quick as I could. And when I was on the bus, somebody said the goddamn big top was on fire. And I couldn't get off that bus fast enough. By the time I got to the ground, it was burned to the ground.
What did
And
you do then?
I felt an awful guilt sensation. I should have burned up in that fire with those people.
Why do you say that?
Because I felt like I was a soldier who had left his post and left it to the enemy. In that case, the enemy was the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people lost their life because I left my post.
Do you think you could have prevented the fire?
Oh no. But I could have died with them.
And what would that have proved?
That I didn't leave my post. Some way.
When do you feel that you became a shaman?
I was always a shaman.
Born a shaman? Okay. So when you were 13, 15 years old, however old you were at the time of this fire, you were a shaman then?
Yeah.
Did you have any visions about this fire?
No. No, if I remember rightly, I had visions of things that happened 100, 200, 300 years ago. And of course it wouldn't make any sense.
Now, over the 50 years of this fire, have you had any visions of the fire?
Afterwards, yes. Because like I said, a lot of people died in that fire. And we are able to communicate with the spirits of the dead.
Okay.
But it's very difficult then to separate reality and fact from fantasy and mysticism, or things that happen that we have absolutely no control of.
When asked how the fire might have started, Robert suggested a magnifying glass and plants an oddly detailed theory. Most would mention a lighter or a match, a cigarette, but not him. Two other circus members were also acting suspiciously after the incident. Harry Larkin entered the hospital shaken but unharmed. He claimed he was an electrician and muttered phrases that hinted that he had started the fire. And Roy Tuttle, a third man, vanished after the fire. He later resurfaced at the main general hospital with severe burns. Said he passed out before entering the tent and spent the night in an open lot. The next day, he walked 200 miles back to Portland, taking a week to do so with his severe burns. The police took his statement but didn't dig any deeper. It's hard to believe no one questioned such a ridiculous story. Did these three men hold secrets about the fire? Perhaps, but the truth will remain buried with them if so, because it's too late. On July 7th, 1944, charges of involuntary manslaughter was filed against 5 officials and employees of the Ringling Brothers within the following days. The circus reached an agreement with the Hartford officials to accept full financial responsibility. The circus paid almost $5 million to the 600 victims and family who had filed claims. In 2005, a memorial was unveiled to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the fire. It is located at the former grounds of where the fire occurred and includes every victim's name and age. The boulders around it tell the story of the fire, and the dogwood trees mark the outline and shape that was once the tent. The location is just behind what is now the Fred D. Wish School that is located at 350 Barbour Street. To end this story, I want to include a quote from the end of Stuart Onan's book. To be lost and forgotten, to be abandoned, is a shared and terrible fear. Just as our fondest hope as we grow older is that we might leave some part of us behind in the hearts of those we love and in the way we live on. Perhaps in the end, we will not be lost. So in that respect, maybe the only gift we can give these people is to be remembered. Thank you for watching till the end. Thank you for the support, and we will see you next time.